Good evening. Happy Thursday, y'all. Happy Thursday. Thank God we made it almost through another week. I'm super excited because we get a 3-day weekend. Listen, I was not concerned that they made Juneteenth a national holiday, but listen, I'll take an extra day off. So, welcome. I'm happy to see you guys. I'm thankful and grateful to God for letting me and all of you wake up this morning. And I'm happy to come and spend some time with y'all. I feel like it's so long. Hi, Mama Nay. But anyway, y'all know I like to start with my random thoughts. So I had a random thought today. I have never been a dishwasher person. Well, I'm not going to say that. I was when I was younger and I lived with my mom and I didn't have a choice. But since I've been grown and I've had my own place, literally, I do not use the dishwasher for anything other than to, hello. Well, thank you. I'm glad you did. But I use it to dry the dishes. And I say that to say that my family, sometimes they, and especially my kids, have always wanted to use the dishwasher. It's just not a thing for me. I don't know why. But anyway, I think they're trying to force my hand, y'all, because when we wash dishes, the only person putting up the stuff out of the dishwasher is me. They might be trying to force my hand. Anyway, that was one of my first random thoughts for today. The other one that I had, and I hope I'm not ruining this for anybody, so if you watch All American and you're just not there yet, you might want to mute me for this part. But listen, I was watching All American. I've been binge watching the last season. I just finished it. And shows like All American, Grey's Anatomy, listen, they make it really comfortable for people to think that it's cool to date in the same friend circles, right? So in other words, y'all got, guys and girls in the friend circle, and it's like two guys that have already dated two of the girls, and they decide that things are not working out with their friends, so they go and they date their friend's friend. Listen, in real life, because they make it look real good on the show, that if you break up with your boyfriend and his friend looks good to you, y'all cool with each other, that it might be a moment of, oh my God, why are you dating my ex-girlfriend? I can't believe it. And then they're all past it and they all friends and they hanging out. Let me tell y'all something, that is not gonna work like that in real life. Seriously. So if you're considering it, or if you're one of these people that are watching these shows and you're feeding into it and you're thinking that looks like a good idea, and your ex-boyfriend got a homeboy that he's looking real good to you, or your ex-girlfriend got a homegirl or a cousin that's looking good to you, and you think that's a good idea, I'm telling you, it's not gonna work like they be making it look in real life, or on TV in real life. It is not gonna go like that. So don't recommend it. However, that being said, let's get right into it. My topic tonight was, yes, it's happening. TV pushes lust. It absolutely does. It pushes that. And I'm telling you, I think to a certain extent, it really makes people think that it's going to be okay if you have a breakup and you and your boyfriend or your girlfriend have a mutual friend, or you guys all, these people run in the same friend circle. These aren't even like people who it's like, oh, we broke up, but he got a friend that, we both know, I hardly ever saw him, or he hardly ever saw him. Like, it's not that. These are people that literally are in the same friend circle. They hang out at the same places. They go to the same schools, and they break up with one, and like within a short period of time pick up with the other. I just don't want anybody in real life to fall for the okie doke and think that that's how that works in real life, that everybody's going to be cool. We're going to ride off into the sunset. We all going to be friends again. We're going to be able to go do things together and celebrate each other's anniversaries. I'm telling y'all, in real life, it is not going to work like that. They are going to absolutely slut shame you. They're going to make you feel a way about yourself, and you're going to be crying. It's probably not going to turn out well. So I just do not recommend it. However, that said, tonight's topic was actually the attention, or the what you post is the attention that you will get, right? So I have several thoughts on that, because I was just randomly thinking today, and sometimes I try to think about what I'm going to talk about, and when it's a heavy topic, I really try to meditate, pray, do all of those things so that I'm really addressing the topic in a certain way. But this one was kind of random, just in reference to looking at different people's posts. And I was looking at Facebook today, and in the last couple of days. And I see sometimes people who, y'all got a lot of titty shots out there. Y'all got a lot of booty shots out there. You're putting your body parts all out there. And then you wondering how come you have these people that are now in your inbox talking about, hey, beautiful, how you doing? And it's like, if that's not the attention that you want, then I'm not quite sure why you're posting all of your body parts on social media. Because I feel like the reason that you're posting that is because you want the attention. But maybe the problem is that you're not getting the attention from the people that you want it from. Or you post all of your body parts and then you see people out, hey Monique, hey Larry, Harlem. You see people out there in real life, right? And maybe they know you from, hey auntie, they know you from Facebook. So then they see you in real life, and they may even approach you initially as if they're totally interested in dating you for real. And then at some point, the conversation takes a quick turn. This person is trying to sleep with you, right? And you're wondering why it is that that's the energy that they're approaching you with. Well, because you posted all of your body parts on social media. Like, I don't understand if you're making these, hey cousin, if you really out here and you're posting and you putting all these titty and booty shots out there, why somebody would think in their mind that it's cool to approach you with sexual energy. I mean, because that's what you putting out there, right? And I mean, I get it. Some of us, you got nice bodies, and you want it to be seen, whatever the case may be. But a lot of times I'm just addressing why sometimes people give you the attention with regard to the things that they see you post, right? Another one is if you are constantly posting negative things about men or women. I can't stand these women, this is how they do. I can't stand these men, this is how they do. And you complaining constantly all the time. If you doing that and then you trying to creep into people's inboxes and all you getting is rejection, I mean, look at what you're posting. You are literally posting things that are constantly negative about the opposite sex, and you are wondering why nobody is interested in dating you. Another one is when you are posting all of your stuff, right? If you are posting every negative thing that ever happens in your life, you posting every negative moment that you have, right? Because that's what we got friends and family and therapists and all of that other stuff for. But if you posting every negative thing, sometimes people don't want to be bothered with you because they don't want that energy, right? They looking at the things that you post and it's like, man, I don't want to respond to this person in their friend request, or I don't want to respond to this person's inbox because it's always something negative. Like, do you have any sort of joy in your life? And listen, I'm not knocking you if you're the kind of person that you going through some things and you need help, but it's professionals out there for that you can talk to. Is if anything, rather than post it all on Facebook, go talk to your friends and family, because a lot of times when you're posting all of that, not only does somebody sometimes not want your energy, but you might attract the wrong kind of people that they're going to use all of that stuff. Attention seekers, they need a life. This is true. If you're posting all of that negative stuff, sometimes those are the things that people are going to use to manipulate you, right? If all you ever talk about is the things that you dislike about women, they did you this way, they did you that way, this happened with your ex-girlfriend, she did you like that, I remember that one time I got done wrong. Guess what? Somebody gonna jump on your feed or in your inbox and be everything opposite of what you just described. And you probably will fall for the okie doke initially. You will give that person your time, energy, and attention until you, at some point, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, find out that they are literally just manipulating you with what? The information that you provided them to do it. Another one, this is a big one for me, y'all. This is a big one for me. If you are a business or a business owner, if you are selling a product, or if you are providing a service and you are posting all over Facebook about negative experiences that you may have had with your customers, how many people do you think sometimes are deterred from purchasing your product or partaking of the services that you provide in fear that, you know what, if you decide that I'm not your type of customer or your type of people, or I have a complaint, because sometimes that's what sparks the problem, is that a person complained about the service they were receiving, whatever the case may be. Now you're posting about them. Do you think that I want to come and purchase your product or utilize the services that you provide when you have sat here and badmouthed your customer all over social media? And hundreds of people are seeing that. Like, seriously, I have seen it multiple times. There are people who will come on a live and talk about their customers bad. There are people who will post about it. And then wonder how come nobody, or I'm not going to say nobody, but how come you don't have a bigger customer base? How come people aren't sharing your flyers? How come people aren't sending you customers? Because a lot of them in the back of their mind are thinking like, man, I ain't finna send my friend over there to get talked about. I'm not finna go over there and be the customer that you talking about. You may not be saying names, but that's neither here nor there. So that's why I say a lot of the time, the attention, I mean, the things that you post are the attention that you will get. And I think that, you know, it's one of those things where it always baffles me, especially women, because, you know, although I'm sure that there are men somewhere who are posting their body parts on social media, I've never actually seen it, but I'm sure that it happens. But for a lot of times, I come across a lot of feeds where, hello, Damien, welcome. I come across a lot of feeds where I see titties, I see booties out, and it's just like, then y'all wondering like, why are these people in my inbox trying to get at me? Girl, because you kind of putting it out there that that's the attention that you want. Now, far be it for me to say that you cannot dress how you want to. You can absolutely dress any kind of way that you want. You can put on what you want. I'm just saying, do not be so surprised when you are approached by people who will come at you from that angle based on what they saw, right? Because a lot of women, I see y'all posting, y'all like, oh, I don't like all them dudes that be in my inbox talking about, hey, sexy, you know, why can't you approach me with something different? Well, did you not just post all of your sexy body parts on social media? I kind of thought that was the attention that you were looking for. I thought you wanted me to tell you that you were sexy because you put all your sexy out there on the internet. So yeah. And give me a minute, y'all, because y'all know I listen. Oh, he's so sweet, y'all. He know I'm in the middle of my stuff, but he still had to come kiss and say hello to his wife. I appreciate him. I also want y'all to know that I kind of played my husband today because I called him earlier at lunchtime and told him that we would go out on a date tonight, but I forgot that I had to come see y'all and spend time with y'all, and I don't like to eat late, so I had to reschedule him for tomorrow, but we love him. So yeah, anyway, back to the topic at hand. A lot of times, you know, people are wondering why exactly, auntie, dress like a lady. And listen, ladies, you can literally draw attention without putting all of your body parts out there in the public for everybody to see. Like, seriously, because I think sometimes what happens is that we have situations where people really in their mind, they want a good dude, you know, they want more prospects, they want people to approach them in dating situations, but maybe they think that the way to get the attention is that, like, I gotta put something out there that draws you in first, and then once I get you drawn in, I could talk to you about who I really am, or I could show you who I really am. But the thing is that what you're putting out there, that's what a lot of times the attention you're gonna get, that's what people wanna know. Like, if you put your titties out there, I want to know that part of you. I'm not trying to get to know the part of you that you says is like super smart or super caring, or, you know, you're fun and you like to do all these other activities. If that's the first thing that I see, and like one of the things that we have to understand, ladies, is that men are definitely more visual than we are. That's the first thing. The second thing is that a lot of times, you know, they are sometimes inclined to be sexually charged, and that's not necessarily like me trying to say that in a negative way. That's just the chemistry of the way that we're made up, right? They see things, they like it, they approach it. But a lot of times I think that sometimes women just want attention, right? And it's not necessarily that you putting it in the atmosphere that you want negative attention, but that ends up being what you got because of the way that you put it out there. So, you know, I just want people to be mindful sometimes of, because and the reason that I'm saying that is because I do see so many posts where people are like, oh my God, why these dudes be in my inbox talking about hey sexy, whatever the case. I mean, because that's what you put out there. There was definitely, hey Shalene, another one that I was thinking about just in reference to, the things that you post. And don't get me wrong, I understand that like we all go through stuff. There are times where sometimes our energy is a little heavy. That might be a result of that's what we feel. Beef. That was the other one. If you always the kind of person that like, you don't even have to be tagging people, you don't even have to be saying it to anybody in particular, but if you are the kind of person that like you always posting something that appears that you beefing with somebody else, I'm telling you, though there are a lot of people who do not want that energy, so they're not going to interact with you. They're not going to come, and they're not going to even like the positive posts that you put out there. Probably a lot of them are unfollowing you so that they don't even see you on their feed. And let me tell you one thing that I have come to realize is that, my lower vibrating self back in the day when I first got on Facebook and I was having issues with certain people, I was one of those people. Yes, I posted the subliminal post that basically, you probably could read it and assess that I was beefing with somebody somewhere, right? And one of the things that I absolutely hate about Facebook is when they have those memories and that beef comes up. Especially if you're now like cool with that person. You guys have worked it out, you've moved past it, and now here comes Facebook reminding you of that one time that you was posting because you was beefing with somebody. I'm telling you, like, you just got to be mindful of some of the stuff that you post, because that's the attention that you are going to get. And a lot of times you see people on here, especially when we have complaints about like, all of the women that we've dealt with, all of the men that we've dealt with, all of the things that they've done. All that does for some people is give them access to you in the sense that you now have somebody in your inbox, or you now have somebody that's interacting with you on social media, and they're being everything opposite of that. They're being everything that you want them to be. They're going to be everything that you didn't experience in that last relationship. They're going to be all of the positive of the things that you basically said, like, oh my God, this person did me this way. Listen, you can break up with a person without putting out all of the information about the ins and outs of the things that you guys experience, right? Because that's what sometimes gives people access to us, is that we put everything on here, and we're talking about all of the different ways that we didn't want to be treated, and I wish that I had somebody that treated me this way. And I'm telling you, manipulators, like, this is a study guide for them, right? And sometimes you will not realize it until down the road. So sometimes you just got to be mindful. Here's the other one. If you always on here, and I'm not telling you that you can't brag about your stuff, I'm just bringing our attention to sometimes the things that we post is the reason that we get a certain type of attention. But sometimes you got people, all y'all talking about is how much money y'all got, how it ain't tricking if you got it. I went out here and I got a new this and I got a new that, and you know what I'm saying, I'm doing it like this. And then you be wondering why you attracted a gold digger, because you said you had it. Because you said you be tricking off, because you said it ain't tricking if you got it. So you be out here, you're online, and some of y'all like be real cocky in your posts, and you be talking about stuff like, you know what I'm saying, I just bought this house, and I just bought this car, and I'm doing this, and I got it like that. And then you wonder why you attracted somebody that all they had expectations for is that, not that they may not be a good person or treat you well, but they got expectations. You know what I'm saying? You done told me you got all this money, so let's go. We on our way to the mall. We finna go, we taking trips. What we doing? Because you put it out there in the atmosphere that you got it like that. So I'm just saying that sometimes, you have to be mindful of the way the things that you say, the things that you put out there. Some of y'all will put all y'all business out here, and then when people start asking you questions on the comment feed, y'all like, why you in my business? Because you just put it all in the street. So if you're gonna put it all in the street, I'm just saying, I got questions. Well, I don't, but I sometimes I do. I really do. But I am not that individual. I will not post my questions. I will not ask questions. But I'm saying, some people, you put all your business out there, and then you wonder why people start asking you questions. Because, they want to know. And you putting it all out there. Like, you're comfortable with telling your business until somebody start asking you questions. Now you mad. Come on now. If you're going to put it all out there, you got to put it all out there. So that's all I'm saying, is that, a lot of times we wonder why, or here's the other one too, y'all. Let me tell y'all something. When you are trying to date people, you trying to be in somebody's inbox, even if they are the kind of person that like will respond to messages that they get in their inbox, and you're like saying, hey, beautiful, how you doing? Sometimes beautiful, the first thing that she's gonna go do is look at your Facebook page, right? And depending on what she has access to and she can see, that may or may not be the determining factor as far as why she's willing to talk to you. Like, for instance, let me tell y'all something. If you're a man and you are trying to be in some woman's inbox, and she goes and she visits your page, and you got like 2,500 friends, and like all of them look like strippers. And let me say this, nothing against strippers, okay? Because God knew my spirit. He made me chubby, because if I wasn't, I probably would have at some point been using my body to be up on a pole making money too. So I ain't judging nobody. But what I am saying is that if you got 2,500 friends, all your friends look like strippers, and you don't post anything that like is inspirational, you don't post anything that, a person could read and be like, oh, that's a great human being, but all your post is like sex related, you talking about different drugs that you could do, or just, just hood stuff, like, it's a lot of ladies that are they're not gonna be interested in you. They're not gonna take you seriously, because really, are you really looking for, even if you in her inbox talking about, nah girl, for real, I'm looking for a serious relationship, she looking like, I don't know, for real. So a lot of times the things that we post are the reason that people do not respond to us when I'm not gonna say us, but people, when you go into their inboxes, a lot of times what you project on social media might be the reason that you're actually getting that rejection. And on the flip side, it could be but you could still have did it correct. I probably could have, cousin, but since I didn't have what I thought I needed to have equipment wise, I didn't get out there on that pole. Hey, cousin Brenda. But yeah, sometimes the nature of what your page is projecting in reference to social media could be the reason that somebody has no interest in talking to you when you come into their inbox, as opposed to a person who, they have a very, what's considered respectable page, and they get the response that they want. So that's just my piece in reference to what we post sometimes is why we get the attention we do or don't, So that was really all I got on the subject, y'all. I addressed my random thoughts in the beginning. Some of y'all may have missed that, but I'm gonna just revisit that for you one time. Real ladies don't act like that, is what Auntie says. And the thing is, y'all, is that you don't have to. Like, you literally don't have to. You do not have to like post all your body parts in order to get the attention. And most of the time when you dressing like that, it's because of the attention that you want. Sometimes people just need to get away from social media. People are now addicted to Facebook. This is true. I'm not going to say that they're not. I wouldn't say that I feel like I'm addicted, but I do feel like, I take sabbaticals from Facebook. I generally, like, especially if I'm working, like, I will delete the app from my phone just so I'm not tempted to go look at it, so I can focus on what it is that I need to do. I think there are definitely some positives and negatives, in reference to being on Facebook. I think that there are positives in reference to the fact that, there's many clips and things that I've come across that are very educational in terms of certain things. I actually was watching a reel on Facebook that it had some really good knowledge in reference to certain things about your credit, that I was able to go implement those things, and it shot up my credit score. Not to say that that information wouldn't have been available by any other means, but it's definitely something where, you know, it could be a positive and it could be a negative. But I think that Facebook is probably like anything else, you know, in terms of your focus. You have to have some self-control in reference to the way that you manage it, you know. And some people will get on here because they want to see other people's drama. And that's the other thing about why, you know, be mindful of what you posting, because some people are only hoping for your demise. Some people are only hoping for your detriment. So they literally only visit your page to see what negative things you might be going through, so that they can sit over there and talk about it and be like, see, I told you her life ain't as good as what she be trying to make it look like, you know. Or some people, they're miserable in their own lives, so it's you know, it's comforting to them to go see the misery in other people's lives. So, you know, a lot of times you got to be mindful, because there are people out there, and the only reason they looking at it is hoping that you're going through something terrible. You know, maybe you got somebody out there jealous of your relationship, and they've been looking at your relationship and they like, you know what, I don't even know how she got a good man. I don't even know why he with her. How she get that dude? He got it going on. And then, you know what, they're only looking at your page, waiting and hoping that you post something that says that y'all broke up. And she hoping that she can go jump in the inbox of the dude that he was treating you so good, and she was mad about it. So, you know, that's the other thing, is that be mindful of what you post, because sometimes that's all people are looking for, to see something negative happening in your life. But, you know, I think that people can be addicted to just about anything. That's black people for you. We have too much hate within us, or with us. That's true. You know, we definitely have some hate amongst each other. And I think that that's definitely something for us to work on. I think that, you know, we have some things that have plagued us probably for generations that we still working through. We still can't move past. But I will say this, on the flip side, I do want to put this out there, because this is like a random kind of off topic thought. They put it out there, so what do they expect? Exactly, cousin, that's what I said. But I do want to give a shout out, because, right, I know that sometimes, especially because Mama Nay just pointed out that sometimes we have a lot of hate within us. Listen, I had a very wonderful experience with a black business owner, and the reason that I want to highlight that is because I know a lot of times we don't want to do business with each other, because we feel like, you know, we gonna get the shaft, or, you know, we ain't gonna do stuff right, you know, it's gonna be too much trickery going on. It's just gonna, you know, it's gonna be some bull crap. So I had recently, you know, I got married a couple weeks ago, and we used an event venue. Well, I had both experiences were good, because we got married inside of a church, and then we had our reception at an event center that's local. So the church we had our wedding at was House of Joy. Pastor Angelica is Angelica Beecham is the pastor over there, and she was really amazing in terms of accommodating us, as far as, you know, just making life easy, allowing us to get in there and do the things that we needed to do. And then afterwards, we had our reception at a place called Get Busy Living, and that's over off of 14th and Oneida. And I just want to say that, like, he was such an easy person to work with. The prices were affordable. He really worked with us, as far as, you know, there was time that we didn't even pay for, that we had asked if we could come in and get in there early and do our decorating and all of those things. And he was very responsive in terms of every time that, you know, I communicated with him by text, where there was anything that we actually needed. So I wanted to give a shout out to both of them, because they were so easy to work with, because they were super accommodating. And I wanted to say that because, again, sometimes we do have experiences where we don't want to deal with us, because we feel like it's not going to be a good experience, or, you know, that the person is just going to make it difficult. And yeah, they were super accommodating. very responsive whenever I was communicating with them, and 90% of the time we were doing it by text. Just because, you know, everybody's schedule is different. When it did warrant a phone call, I got that phone call right away. And it was a easy breezy experience, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, I am the type of person that I do try to support us, and sometimes there are situations in which I don't necessarily have good experiences. But I would like to say that if you do business, or you do have an encounter, right? Because this is one of the, I love you too, cousin, one of the ways that we can address those issues. If you do have an encounter, right, with someone who's not good, instead of like the first thing that you do is go like all over social media and post about how horrible your experience was, and you know, I'll never go there again, I would challenge you just to try to work that situation out. Because a lot of times, and I'm not saying that we never do, but a lot of times we do not try to have a conversation with the business owner or the person who was providing a service before we go like bash them all over social media, or before we go badmouth them to everybody. A lot of times that's the first thing that we do, but that business owner is like, oh my God, you know, you didn't address that with me. Or sometimes they have people that are doing business on their behalf, and we haven't tried to reach out to the owner of the business, and maybe it was an encounter that we had with their employees. So I would just challenge us to at least make sure that we have tried to reach out to that business owner, or to reach out to that individual, and see if we can't find some resolution, and see if they're willing to try to rectify the situation before we just put them out there bad, right? And in that regard, if you are Black and you are doing business, you know what I'm saying, don't listen. Just like and sometimes, y'all, there are bad business owners, but sometimes as customers we suck too. Right? Because sometimes we expect to get discounts because they look like us. Y'all don't go to Walmart and ask them for no discount. Y'all don't go to Target and ask for discounts. Y'all don't walk up in other people's businesses and ask them to give you stuff for free. But sometimes because they look like us, we expect to get certain discounts. We expect to, you know, we want them to discount their product or their service. We want them to offer us stuff for free. Like if you don't expect, and especially if they're providing a good service or they have a good product, you know, pay people what they're worth, and don't ask them for that. Sometimes people will offer, and it's okay to take them up on that offer, but don't always walk in the door expecting that you have to get that. You know, just like you don't go into these other establishments and ask for those discounts, because you got to realize sometimes in order for a person to get to a place where they can offer you those discounts, they first got to charge you the upfront price. So, you know, and I love us. That's why I come on here. That's why I spend time with you guys. And that's why I'm transparent about, you know, most of the things that I talk with you about, not because I feel like I know so much, but I do know a lot of stuff. And a lot of the stuff that I know is because I like did a lot of wrong stuff. And either I did it wrong because I didn't know better, or somebody tried to tell me and I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. But I be trying to save y'all some of the grief of those experiences in real life. And like, I've never posted my body parts on social media, but I have posted those subliminal posts when I get mad at somebody. Like my new higher vibrating self has not done that in years, in a very long time. But I have had, like back in the day, situations where I was upset with somebody and I posted those subliminal posts. And like I said, Facebook does a beautiful job of reminding me sometimes, and I'd be like, dang, you know what? And it sucks, because especially once you move past the beef with somebody and y'all like both in a good place, and then like Facebook will put that memory on there that, you know, a lot of times they see too if you guys are friends still on Facebook. I'm telling you, it's just change and learn to support and engage Black business. Great point. I hope so too. I think that, you know, these conversations that we have are definitely the way to that, you know, because some people sometimes when they're a customer, they don't see a problem with why they can't ask for a discount. They don't see the problem with, you know, going in and asking somebody to give them something for free, you know. But realistically, y'all, it's on both ends. It's not always that the business owner is not doing things the way that they should. Sometimes as customers, because people look like us, we expect certain things, or sometimes we expect certain people to, if they're in a certain position, because everybody's not a business owner, but sometimes we have expectations that a person will circumvent the policies and procedures that their job has laid down because we look alike, right? We walk in there with that attitude that because you black and I'm black, you know what I'm saying, and we supposed to just automatically love on each other like that. We want people to circumvent the policies and procedures that they job got. And we want them not to do their job, or we want them to halfway do it, or we want them to violate those policies and procedures because, man, we supposed to be cool like that. And then the moment that they don't, we out here bad mouthing them in the streets because we mad because they didn't take our side. Which, listen, tonight is like, I had a topic, but obviously we are going other places, but I want to address because we talking about loving us. Listen, one of the things, y'all, this was supposed to be like a whole different topic on its own and by itself, but we gonna talk about it tonight. Sometimes y'all gonna have to get comfortable with either speaking up with regard to your family members, or you gonna have to get comfortable calling Child Protective Services, right? Because a part of loving us means that we have to protect us. And one of the things that we have been known to do is place ourselves in a situation where, look, y'all, my husband, he's trying to cook, so we gonna give him some grace in the background for all this noise that he's making that's becoming a distraction, but we love him. But anyway, I say that we gonna have to get comfortable with either speaking up, or we gonna have to get comfortable with calling the people. And the reason that I say that is because sometimes we just have a desire not to be into it with our family members, our friends, and we see things that we know are inappropriate for the way that you spoke to those kids. We see things inappropriate for the way that you hit them kids, for the way that you treating them, for the way that this house is nasty and these kids should not have to live in these conditions. But we don't want to say nothing because we don't want to be into it with our family members, either that family member, or we don't want our other family members to come for us because we're the ones that had to speak up, or we're the ones that made the report. First of all, let's be clear. You can make reports to Child Protective Services anonymously if it becomes that and it's necessary. But I'm saying if we love us, y'all, then we got to start addressing us. And honestly, if we are addressing each other, then it really shouldn't be a situation in which Child Protective Services actually has to step into the situation, because we already handling that. Right? But a lot of times the reason that they get involved is because we're not saying nothing. We talking amongst each other around our other family members, right? When that one who's not taking care of their kids, or who's mistreating their kids, when they not around, we having conversations about them, but we not having conversations with them, right? And so if we love us, then we should really be stepping into those situations so that Child Protective Services or the police never really have to become a part of the equation. So that's something that we gonna have to get comfortable with as a people, right? Start speaking up, because some of y'all, and I'm not gonna say that I haven't been in the situation myself, but listen, that was my lower vibrating self that was afraid to be in that conflict. And a lot of it too is that sometimes I get that we don't want to put our own safety at risk, but the good thing about being an adult is that you have the means for protecting yourself. These kids do not. So we are doing them a horrible disservice when we see things that are happening and we don't feel like we have to make those calls. And let me say something, let me be clear, because I have children of my own that are now having children. And if things get to a point where my kids are not doing the things that they're supposed to do for their children, they're not taking care of their kids, they mistreating their kids, listen, I don't have no problem, right? But if I got to step into the situation, we finna do that thing right. But I don't have any problem if I need to place the people in their business. And I have to find this information. Let's read Mama Nay's comments. It says, yes, there are too many children dying. Families aren't getting involved. Some of these new grandparents, some of them don't step up. And this is true, and it's not okay, y'all. It is not okay when you go over to your people's house and you see that them kids is living in absolute disgusting filth. Now, I ain't talking about people that you go over their house, you know, and it look like working people who came home and it's just some stuff here and there on the floor. I'm talking about when you know that them kids is over there living in filth. The dog is pooping everywhere. They pissing everywhere. They not cleaning that up. And they really out here just, these kids is sleeping in beds with all kind of nastiness going on. Like, that stuff that y'all need to be addressing. When you go over your people's house and them kids get in trouble and you see that somebody has literally gone beyond a basic spanking and knocked the wind out that child and hit them in a way that, like, it made you feel like you just got hit. Come on now, you got to speak up. You got to say something. And listen, on the receiving end of that, if that's you and your family is coming to you and they having that conversation with you, listen, instead of returning hostility, you might need to just say, you know what, I don't really know how to discipline my kids. And because listen, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people, when they doing that, they don't feel good about it either. They ain't finna tell you that, but they don't. But I'm just saying, a lot of times we're turning blind eyes because we don't want to be the one. We don't want to be the one to speak up. We don't want our family members coming for us saying, why did you put her in that situation? And a lot of times, listen, I get it. We don't all have the resources to take in our family members' kids. So sometimes we don't speak up because it's like, well, I don't want to have to take the kids in. I don't want to have to be the one to, the kids come stay with me. I don't have it like that. Speak up though. It's resources out there. And again, I have to locate the information, but there is a new resource available where you don't have to necessarily get Child Protective Services involved. You can actually, there's an agency now that they're kind of there for more like support. So they want to be like intervention so that they don't actually have to remove your kids. They don't have to put them in CPS care, foster care, all of those different things, but they want to be able to support you and get you the services that you might need that are going to help you. And some of y'all need the anger management that they offering. Some of y'all need the therapy that they offering. Some of y'all need that help. Some of you are frustrated, you know, because financially you may be bogged down with a lot going on, and here you got these kids and they just working on your nerves and you don't know how to respond to that, so you lash out. Listen, sometimes you got to utilize the services and the resources that are available to you to help you understand how to better treat your kids, right? Because some of y'all got kids that you have mistreated, and when they got grown and they had the ability to protect themselves, or they had the ability to get away from you, they hurried up and did that, and you don't understand why that they won't reciprocate when you reaching out to them and trying to love on them. It's because they remember the person that you were. So I'm just saying, if we love us, then we got to start addressing that. And when you see something, you need to be speaking up about it. And if you're not, you're technically as abusive as the person. Kind of like, in my opinion, you a little bit worse than the abuser, because you have the knowledge to understand that kids cannot protect themselves. There are limitations on what kids can do in positions where they are being mistreated and abused. There are limits on what they have the ability to do. But you, as the adult, you have options. You do. And if you don't want to say anything, especially because you feel like that violence might now be turned on you. And listen, I've been there, right? I've been in situations where it's like, man, I know that if I intervene in this situation, it might get turned on me. But that has been a risk for me that I'm willing to take, because this child has absolutely no means of being able to protect themselves. But I do. Because at minimum, if I really feel like I'm in danger, I can call 911. So I'm just saying, when we talk about loving us, that is definitely something that we have to give some attention to. And sometimes, y'all, you do have to be comfortable with calling the people. And I will say that, yes, there are some crappy social workers out there in the world that do not do their jobs. There are some social workers who, you know, they just either they doing too much or not enough. But there are also some that are really there because they care about these kids. They want to see them be successful. They are there to protect them and all of that. And they do a good job at what they do, and they're not just there to be a villain to remove your kids. Auntie says, don't take it out on the kids. They didn't ask to be here. Yes, don't take it out on the kids. But at the same time, some people do, because they either don't have the knowledge about how to discipline their kids. And some of us are just, and I say us because in my youth, when I first had kids, my oldest child got a lot of whoopings because that's what was done to me. That is the way that I was raised. That's the way that I was disciplined. So I really didn't know I didn't have any resources for different methods to do things, right? I just literally would whip my kids because that's what I knew. So my oldest daughter probably got the brunt of that. But at some point I realized, like, this is not how I want to discipline my children, because I absolutely hated it. And to be honest, it didn't do anything to change my behavior for the things that I was getting whoopings for. So I had to go get help with that, though, y'all. I literally had to go talk to somebody and do counseling. At the time, I did it with a spiritual counselor on that level. But I had to go get help for that, because when I stopped whooping my kids, because I still didn't, even though I stopped whipping them because I didn't want them to experience that, I still didn't have positive ways that I could discipline them. And so as a result of not whooping them, but still not having any other means by which I knew to do it, I started cussing a lot. Like, I would cuss them out. I would cuss them kids out. And most of it was out of frustration, because really my go-to was, I really want to beat you behind. But since I'm not comfortable doing that, and I don't really know any other positive ways to do it, I just started cussing them out, which still made me feel like a horrible human being. And that's why I went out and I sought, help in reference to, how do I discipline these kids without talking to them poorly and without whipping them. So sometimes you got to seek the help, and there are, places that you can get that. And as families, we really should be, one of the things that I hated the most when I worked for Child Protective Services is all of the people that would come across my caseload where I ended up, being their worker as a result of either their kids being removed or if they were still in the home, but we had to provide them that support. What I used to really be frustrated with is the family that would now talk bad about them, the family that now they want to tell you all the bad stuff about this person. They want to tell you, girl, they got your ear now, and they know that you the people, so they want to tell you all the stuff that you need to know about this person and what they don't do right. But or they talking about them bad because their kids got removed. And it's like, but where were you before the kids got taken out of the home? What were you trying to do to provide any sort of support? What did you do to try to help that individual find different ways to discipline their kids? What did you do if the kids were removed because the children were being neglected in reference to not eating regularly? Did you try to help provide any resources? Like, what did you do? And I'm not saying that there's any right way to do things for every single situation, but what did you do to try to intervene in that situation before the people had to come and now these kids are in foster care? If you didn't do anything and you didn't say anything, you absolutely do not have the right to now voice your opinion that the people have gotten involved. That is not your place. Stay in your lane. That lane over there where you wasn't speaking up before, stay in that lane because you weren't being supportive. So, I'm just saying that sometimes we have to get comfortable with that, because sometimes we see a lot of situations. And listen, I'm not mad at you if you are the person who says, I don't have the resources to be able to take another child into my home, or, I already have kids of my own and I'm not necessarily overwhelmed, but we good over here and we don't have the ability to house another child, whatever the case may be, whatever the reasons are. At least get comfortable with reaching out to the people who have access to those resources. Reach out to your other family members, because sometimes you do have family members that have that ability, but maybe they don't see them as frequently as you do, so they don't know what's happening. They don't know that those kids need protection. So sometimes as families, we have to come together, and we have to not be so dead set on just gossiping and talking about each other bad, but we have to be able to come together and talk about how can we help. right? And the burden can't fall on just one person. The burden cannot be the responsibility of just one individual. As a family, the same way that we come together to have a good time, the same way that we come together to celebrate any occasion in which we are all a family and everybody's there and we all bringing food and we're participating in the celebration, that's the same way that we need to be coming together when we know that one of our family members is having an issue in which we need to intervene. So that part. And Mama Nay says we are a spiritual people and we need to get back to that. I wholeheartedly agree. Now I do regular mental health counseling, and a lot of that is not necessarily, now I am a person, y'all have heard me discuss it before, that I've had some trauma in my life, and so some of that is about not surviving anymore, wanting to thrive, wanting to understand some of the things that I may be triggered by. Some of it is about just everyday stuff that happens and staying balanced, because there's a lot sometimes that we have to deal with when we're trying to balance work and family and kids and grandkids and just life in general and different situations that we encounter on a regular basis. So some of it is just really about me staying balanced. But outside of that, prior to doing that, I had a spiritual counselor, and she wasn't like a licensed therapist or anything like that, but she was definitely someone who I was able to go sit with and talk to. And she had not only wisdom because she was much older than I was, but she also had a biblical perspective that she was approaching our conversations with. So Jonathan says, but also don't let your kids abuse you. Call the police on them and stop thinking that you're helping them by not holding them accountable for their actions. Also, please stop allowing your children to manipulate you. This is true. You shouldn't allow your children to abuse you, and I do wholeheartedly agree that you should not be manipulated. I would counter that statement, though, by adding that sometimes the children who grow up and become abusive are as a result of the abuse that they experience from that parent. So sometimes we have a certain level of responsibility in reference to the way that our children may now be treating us. So, when you think about the Bible, it tells, children to respect their mother and honor their parents, but it also tells parents not to provoke their children. And I'm saying that because a lot of people love to quote that scripture, in Ephesians. It's all in Ephesians. Go look it up, y'all. And a lot of people love to quote, respect thy, honor thy mother and father, but they don't like to talk about the one that says don't provoke your children, right? And sometimes sometimes parents are manipulation. So absolutely, I'm not taking away from the comment that Jonathan made in reference to calling the police on your kids, because absolutely, if you have grown children who are abusing you, or if you're elderly and you got children, grown children who are coming over, grandchildren who are either physically abusing you or putting you in situations where you feel like you have to give them things because of the threats that they're making towards you, I absolutely agree that you need to be comfortable with calling the people. But at the same time, we do have to be mindful of a lot of times the reason that those children are doing those things, they're exercising that behavior. Hello, Pastor Dad. A lot of times the reason that children are exercising that behavior is because you're the one that they got it from. You showed them how to be abusive. You showed them how to mistreat people. And so now sometimes that turns on you, right? So mothers, we got to be mindful of how we talk to our children, because that child might turn around and talk to you that way. So that's why I believe that, you have to look at both of those scriptures in reference to how children are supposed to treat their parents, but you also have to be mindful of how parents need to treat their children. And sometimes we have to receive the responsibility for the way that they're conducting themselves now, because a lot of times, we can be abusive or manipulative with our own children and then be frustrated because now that behavior is turning on us. So we have to be mindful. We have to be accountable as well. But I do agree, absolutely, wholeheartedly. And that's not just in that situation, y'all. When I talked about earlier, we got to get comfortable with calling the people. We got to get comfortable with calling the child protective services. We got to be comfortable with calling the adult protective services. We got to be comfortable with calling the police, because sometimes it is warranted. Sometimes there are situations in which we do not have the ability, and if you don't have, but I'm talking about these suburban kids that we are now raising that really don't care. Some of them really don't, and I hate to be that person that just kind of continues to, I do think that there are some kids who definitely feel entitled to certain things because they didn't have to get it out the mud like we did. Then and a lot of times what happens, you guys, is the reason that some of these kids grow up feeling like they're entitled or that they should have certain things is because when we had to get it out the mud and we had to work so hard to get it, now that we have it, we want to spoil our children with it, right? Because we had to walk everywhere, because we had to get on the bus, because we had to go out here at 14 and 15 and grind and get on jobs, because some of us had to. Like, some of us, that literally was not just an option that we went and got a job because, oh my gosh, I really want to go work a summer job. No, some of us had to put ourselves in that position, or we weren't going to have access to the things that we need. Some of those checks that we got, we had to help our family with, or we had to use that money to get the things that we needed because our parents were poor and they didn't have it. So a lot of times what happens is we had to get it out the mud. So now we got it. We just give it to our kids. We just give it to them. We make life easy for them. They have no concept of understanding what it's like to have to go out here and get it on their own. And because we did that, now they expect it. But again, I hate to be that person, but again, we have to be accountable for that as well, right? We have to understand they act like we owe them everything because they didn't ask to be here mentality. Well, technically they didn't ask to be here. But that being said, I think that as parents, we also have to be accountable. If we did not take the time to instill the value of certain things in our children, if we never put them in a position where they had to work for it, and we just gave it to them, and we spoiled them, and we gave them absolutely everything that they asked for beyond what they wanted. If we went out here and we bought the $500 game systems when this child was, because this, and I'm speaking to this because this happens a lot. Sometimes you got people that'll go out here, buy their kid a $500 game system. That kid is getting, hello, Kisa, hey cousin. A lot of times people will go out here and they will buy all of those things for those kids, but your kid's grades is crappy. Like, your kid ain't never seen above a C, ain't working to do nothing in school. That kid probably sometimes isn't even going to school, but as their parent, Christmas time rolls around, you go out, you buy them a $500 game system, and that sets the expectation that, okay, I don't have to work for anything, right? So we have to be accountable as parents too, if we raise the kind of kids that have expectations that we're going to give them everything that they have to do absolutely nothing for. So I do not disagree with you in saying that sometimes these kids feel entitled. I do not disagree with you that they should be held accountable for certain things, but as parents, we got to be accountable too. Like, if that's the kind of environment we were raising our kids in, we cannot act surprised when they get grown and they have no concept of how to go out here and work for themselves or how to get it for themselves. So I don't know. I guess, I don't have all of the wisdom and the knowledge to know absolutely everything about how we should do things, but I'm just saying sometimes we raise kids a certain way and then we're like totally shocked that they're acting a certain way, right? And just because you had to struggle as a parent, just because your parents financially, hey Kyla, didn't have everything to give you, doesn't mean that now because you have it, you have to give it to anyone. He says he has a rebuttal. Well, I want you to post your rebuttal because I definitely want to hear it. I mean, it's a different perspective. So I want you to post your rebuttal. Tell me what you're thinking. But yeah, just because, and I feel that a lot of times parents, we do that. We feel like we want to make things easy for our kids because it was hard for me. Well, I think that there's a balance between, giving them the responsibility of having to earn certain things and being able to reward them with nice things because they earned it, and making them get out here and grind for it. Like, I'm not saying that you got to put your kids out and make them go out here and hustle for every small thing, but if you have a child that you don't want to go to school, right? You're not going to school. You're not being attentive to you're not doing your best, and you're not getting decent grades or good grades, and there's no reason. Like, it's not necessarily because you struggle and you need more tutoring. Like, you're literally just not applying yourself. Like, why are we rewarding them with nice things if they're not doing that? And then being shocked when they get grown and they have an expectation that I'm still not really doing anything, but I want you to give me things. I want you to buy me things. So I'm kind of waiting, y'all, for my husband to post his rebuttal, because he does have one. I'm sure that he does. We have this conversation a lot, though, with regard to what he calls child manipulation. And I think that, sometimes I don't think that I guilty parent, but I definitely think that sometimes I make room for certain things that my kids may struggle with, because I feel like a part of that are some of the things that raising them I struggled with, right? Because I feel like some of the things that I experienced while I was parenting them, and some of the things that I may have exposed them to that were traumatic for them, directly contributed to sometimes the way that they act right now. And so they have to be accountable, but I have to be accountable too. Now, with that being said, I am not telling you that you have to be like a victim of this guilty parenting, always letting your kids back you into a corner and making you feel that you have to do certain things or give them certain things because they feel entitled to it, because you could have did a better job. You could have, not did this or not did that. Like, I'm not saying be a guilty parent, but I am saying that some behaviors that they may have could be a direct result of some of the things that you had going on, and you got to be accountable too. So I don't see his rebuttal, but you know what? If he posts it after we get off here, then I'll definitely address it next week before we get into whatever topic we have. But yeah. So I'm saying everybody just be mindful. We all have to be accountable for our behavior. But the main point that was really supposed to come out of all of that is, if we love us, then we literally have to start loving us. And that means that absolutely I ask my girls to forgive me because I did things that caused behaviors they have. And it's true. Like, sometimes the things that we take our kids through as children, but sometimes because of the things that we don't know, and we can't, and first, in order to be accountable for the way that we may have done things, we have to forgive ourselves for the things that we didn't know when we didn't know them. Because some of us didn't have like maybe good examples to learn from in reference to how we parent. We had kids that we weren't prepared for, and maybe we didn't have access to the resources. We didn't know where to get the resources, or we were literally just too ashamed to go utilize the resources. But either way it goes, we put our children in some of the positions that they're in reference to the behaviors that they display and some of the things that they do. And sometimes, yes, we do start to be a target for their manipulation because of the fact that we put them in those situations and we didn't know what we didn't know at the time. But now that we are aware, and here's the thing, you guys, like, just because now your kids are grown and you now have the ability to see the areas in which you may have created some trauma or where you could have done better as a parent, do not miss the opportunity to be accountable to that simply because you don't want to be now seen as a bad parent. Listen, there are certain isolated incidents, certain things that we did that we didn't know better. And just because we're being accountable to that doesn't disregard every single thing that you did as a parent. Some of us are really amazing parents. We instilled great things in our children, but we can not only want to take credit for the beautiful things that we instilled in them, we also have to be accountable to the things that were not so great. Because a lot of times that's why our kids struggle, and to me it creates more of a struggle when we're unwilling to accept that responsibility as a parent, and we want to say, no, everything that I did was good. I only was a good parent. I only did good things. I never made mistakes. I never made bad decisions. You can't be that. You have to be accountable to the things that the situations that you may have created. Like, we all love our children. I know that. Like, we love them. But just because we love them doesn't mean that every decision that we made was in their best interest, and some of it isn't intentional. Right? We talk about that here all the time. Some of the decisions that we make are a direct result of our trauma or things we didn't know. So I'm gonna read Jonathan's comment as it to all of us, because I can't like read and address it, at the same time. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Our job as parents is to raise our kids, keep them safe, put food on the table, keep a roof over their heads, and do everything that we can to make sure that they can succeed in life once they reach that age when it's time for them to leave the house. All of the extracurricular things that they be wanting, that's up to them to go out and get a job and provide that for themselves. We do a disservice by always being there to help them clean up their mess. They have to learn how to navigate this world because we're not always going to be here. I do not disagree. I believe that that is absolutely true. We do have a responsibility to do all of those things. I do believe that a lot of the extracurricular things that they desire to have, that there's nothing wrong with us making them go out and get those things. But I also believe that, it's okay to reward them sometime if you see that they're working hard in school. It's okay to reward them with certain things if they are doing well. So, yeah, I do. I do not agree with that statement. I think that where I was not necessarily disagreeing, but not all the way agreeing with you, is that I think that it's up to us also to be accountable to our stuff. Because a lot of times as parents, we're not. And what's crazy to me is that sometimes you have people that, like, in your own mind, you know what stuff you was out there doing that you didn't have no business. You know what people you brought around your kids, that these kids walking around here with $300 sneakers and their parents are renting. I don't disagree with that statement, Mama Nay. I think that, a lot of times we do. We do too much. But on the flip side of that, right, I think that we also, some parents have a responsibility not only to, not necessarily give those things to your children, but what about the parents who don't teach their kids not to bully other kids for what they don't have, right? What about the kids who are out here, they got it, right? But they're bullying the other kids who don't. But I do believe that, we have a responsibility to, instill good values in our kids, in reference to, like, one of the things that I talk about sometimes is that, I grew up in a home where we weren't like super poor, I would say that at that time we were considered what most people would consider middle class. Like, we weren't struggling for anything. We weren't wanting for anything. My mom definitely, on the flip side, was not that person. Like, she was not just going to go out and buy me all of the expensive things that I absolutely wanted. I did have to go, for those kinds of things. If I wanted them, I had to go get a job and work for them. So she did instill that in me in reference to going out and getting things. But one of the things that they didn't do is, like, they didn't give us any financial literacy, and they didn't give us any information about how to manage our credit. And I'm gonna say this, I believe that even if they didn't necessarily have all of the wisdom about some of those things, they at least had like a clue. Because my family, like, they had properties. They understood, like, they were homeowners. They owned businesses that they ran successfully for many, many years, but they did not give us that information. They did not pass it down. But I am not going to disagree. But I believe that it's full circle. Everybody has to be accountable for their behavior. And if kids are walking around here with $300 sneakers that their parents are buying and they're renting, then yes, that is again a lack of financial literacy, and that is a lack of, I think, just wisdom that we are not giving to one another. And those are the things that as a community we really have to start to address, because as a community of people who all look like us, we do have financial power, We just don't use it appropriately, right? We have financial buying power, and we don't properly use it. We use it, and a lot of times, like, if a child is walking around here with those things, then you have to, it's likely safe to assume that their parent is also doing the same thing. There's people out here who are utilizing the funds that they have to go out here and spend all of their money on things that make them look good, that are going to be attractive to other people in reference to people liking them, but they're not investing that money in anything. They don't have a savings account, right? I'm not going to tell no lies. COVID taught me to have a savings account, because prior to that, yes, I did have a savings account, but all I did every month is take the money that I put in the savings account, transfer it to the checking account so I could spend it. COVID, however, when it initially happened, taught me to have a savings account, put the money in there and keep it in there, because it's a sad story when you get to a point where I was very fortunate to be an essential worker. So I still had access to my job. I was still making money. I didn't get furloughed or any of those things. So I didn't have to seek out unemployment or anything like that. But it definitely put me in a position to start thinking about the fact that it was like, dang, if an apocalypse really happened, like, I don't have nothing to fall back on. All I got is what I got today. And I didn't have funds that if I was out of work for the next 30, 60, 90 days or anything like that and waiting for unemployment to get processed, I really didn't have anything that I had the ability to live on. So it was going to suck for my life. So, even as an adult, because, and if I didn't have that knowledge because my parents didn't give it to me, then I certainly didn't have the ability to, at one point in time, to give it to my children. But as they got older, and I became more knowledgeable about certain things, I tried to share that information with them. And in all honesty, y'all, I got a 20-year-old that sometimes she be telling me how to manage my finances, because she has certain information that she keeps up with in terms of economic changes and things that she gives me. So don't underestimate the power of these kids to give you information too. But yeah. So I love the discussion that we had tonight, y'all. And initially, it really did just start off being about the attention that the things that we put out there that bring certain types of attention to us that we may not necessarily want, but maybe it takes for somebody to help us understand why it's coming to us like that. But I'm glad that we deviated the way that we did. I think that we definitely talked about some things, and I'm here for community healing. I'm here because I love my people. Listen, I love everyone, but I love my people, and I want us to grow. I want us to learn how to love on one another. I want us to learn how to be kind to each other. I want us to literally be able to have generations come behind us and not be traumatized and not be plagued by all of the same things that some of us were. And I would implore all of you to, even with the kids that we're now talking about, and a lot of times we're talking about teenage kids, and just because your friends get a pair of Jordans every time they drop does not mean that I should provide you with that same luxury. If you're getting good grades in school, that's something that you're supposed to do. Once you graduate and find a good job, you can provide those same luxuries for yourself, and it will mean that much more if I'm handed everything that I want based on the fact that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a human being. Where does that take me in life? I get what you're saying, husband. And I don't totally disagree with you. I'm not saying that we have to go out and we have to like reward our kids with extravagant gifts, but I don't literally think that there's anything wrong with rewarding them with certain things. Just like, and it doesn't always have to be monetary, right? But at the same time, like on your job, and I don't fully disagree, Mama Nate, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with rewarding children with things when, they're working hard. It's like, I don't think that you have to have like a system where you're setting them up to believe that they got to get $300 shoes or that they have to take extravagant vacations or nothing like that. But I don't think that there's anything wrong with rewarding, children for working hard. Just like if you work hard on your job, sometimes they give you a bonus. you know. And I think that you can also, you don't have to do it where there's an expectation set that if they do certain things, they're going to get it. But I think that it's okay to surprise them sometimes with nice things, because it's like, oh, you know, I see you. I see you working hard, or I see you, you know, keeping the house clean when I don't have to ask you to. I see you, you know, I don't know what good examples are, but I see you. You know, I see you working hard, and it doesn't have to be you giving them a thing. It could be as simple as taking them out, you know, for a dinner at their favorite place and eating with them. It can be, you know, it can be basic. We don't have to give them extravagant gifts, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with, what do Black parents need to focus on to change crime and pregnancy? I think that, you know, what do we need to focus on in terms of changing crime? It depends. I think that a lot of times, you know, we first of all allow some of us, when our kids are little, love you too, auntie, have a good night. I think sometimes when our kids are little, you know, we allow them to be exposed to too many things that are on TV. I think that we allow them too much access to the internet. And a lot of the things that they see that are on TV are usually glorified crime. I think that sometimes we have family members who, back in the day, you know, they were the neighborhood's biggest dope dealer. I think that sometimes, hey, Howard, I think that sometimes we have family members that, you know, they glorify their days when they used to be gangbangers. And a lot of times because those things are glorified and that's what our kids see, I think that that is something that they, you know, they think it's a big deal. And sometimes I think that we don't do enough to tell our family members that, you know, when we at the family barbecue and somebody's talking about how they used to sell all the drugs, and I remember when I used to have that kind of car and I used to, you know, have this money. Listen, that's what you used to do. And ain't nobody trying to hear about that. You know, give these kids something else positive to grasp onto. Show kids that you can go out here. Where's your family members? You know, and this is what happens, right? A lot of times our family members that actually make money because they have a nice job or a good career, we don't want to deal with them family members because we don't, you know, sometimes it's us, we got a certain sense of jealousy, so we don't want to be around them in reference to showing these kids that you can go out and you can have a good career, you can make that same kind of money, but we don't mind kicking it with the people in our family that they steady talking about what they used to do 20 years ago and how they used to make that money, and we make it look good to these kids. Sometimes we don't know as parents where our kids is at and who they hanging out with. Like, you know, we literally live in a time now where I don't have small kids or teenagers anymore, but I see a lot of parents dropping their kids off or letting their kids go over to people's houses and they don't know who's over there. They don't know what people their kids is fitting to go hang out with. They don't know what they dropping their kids off to. I done seen parents drop their kids off at a 16-year-old birthday party and not even go in and meet the parents. Like, there are certain things that we don't do anymore as parents that places our kids in a position where they getting access to that type of stuff. You know, back in the day, like when I was young and when my kids were young, before I took my kids anywhere, I knew those people. I didn't just drop my kids off to anybody's house, and I definitely didn't drop them off and pull off. Like, I want to know who live there. Who all live there? Is it a mom and a dad? And I need to know the mom and the dad. I need to have conversations with them. I need to know what kind of people they are. Because let me tell you something. If you spend time with people, sometimes you understand what kind of spirit them people got. And you know what kind of people they are. But some people are too comfortable with dropping their kids off anywhere. Some people are too comfortable with letting their kids go somewhere and saying, I'll be back later on. And some people are too comfortable. And now, don't get me wrong, some parents are in a position where they literally have to work, and that's the other thing, that as families we don't support each other anymore. So a lot of our kids are being left at home alone. They are being raised by the TV because as family members we don't want to be bothered, so we don't support one another in reference to, you know, back in the day, like on my block, even though my mom had to work a lot and my grandpa had to work a lot, we still had like everybody on the block looking out for us. It was we couldn't go do nothing that we had no business doing without somebody knowing what we was doing, because the whole block was keeping an eye on us. So even as our parents weren't home, we still had other people looking out for us, and it extended really beyond our block. It was in our neighborhood, but we don't have that same sense of community anymore. And then we don't have community parenting Kizzy says you're right about that, but we also don't have community parenting because everybody's sensitive about somebody saying something to their child. Don't talk to my child. Don't correct my kid. And a lot of times we got so much attitude about people not wanting to say nothing to our kids that as a community we don't do those things anymore. We don't look out for each other's kids. We don't take our kids to places where everybody's keeping an eye on them. So these kids, a lot of them is out here raising themselves. And in reference to pregnancy, I think that, you know, a lot of times it's not about how we can prevent it, but what we can do as parents is a lot of us don't educate our kids about how to protect themselves. We just really want to put it in their mind that we don't want them to have sex, and we don't talk about prevention. We don't talk about birth control. We don't talk about condoms. We don't even give them sometimes the affirmations that they need not to be out here in somebody's face where they're subject to be having sex because their self-esteem wasn't high enough. Like, those are just things that we don't do. And a lot of the reason why we don't do it is because some of us who are in my age group and above, we have certain trauma that we have experienced that we refuse to go deal with. We don't want to talk to nobody. We don't want to get any sort of professional help. And we just want to keep going the way that we want to do things the way that they've always been done. And because we're doing it that way, we're not putting our kids in a position to give them the information that they need not to go be laid up. Because half of these kids, the reason that they out here having sex is for boys is because it's being glorified. Oh, that makes you a man if you can lay up with somebody. And for girls, a lot of times it's because they don't have the self-esteem that they need to have, because then nobody affirmed them at home before they got out here into the world. And the first boy that came along and told them they was pretty, they was like, okay, you can have my stuff. So, you know, I think that when we think about why are our kids out there on that and why are our kids out here and they're doing certain things, it's because there's certain things that we just don't give them. We not dealing with our stuff. We not dealing with our trauma, and we're putting them in a position to make it easy. And I think that, you know, community parenting to me is huge, because I think that the more that we as a community come together to parent our children, and that's the problem, is that some people are only worried about the ones that belong to them, and some people not even that. But as a community, like, we don't bring it together. We don't want to be bothered. And if we do want to be bothered, we got parents who don't want nobody saying nothing to their kid. You know, it used to be a time that when I was in school, if something was going on, like maybe my mom had to work all the time during school hours, but honey, there was always somebody in the neighborhood who maybe they didn't work for whatever the reasons were, and they had the time and the availability, and it was like, listen, you know, and our parents would give the school that permission that if I'm not available, call so and so because I know that they can get there, and it was not a problem. Now we don't want nobody to say nothing to our kids. Now we trying to fight people because they're trying to discipline. Not even like, I'm not telling you to let nobody beat your child or nothing crazy like that, but I'm just saying, like, we don't even want people correcting our kids. We don't want them to say anything to our kids. You know, it's situations where you got, like, when I was little, we had parents that they were able to be at the bus stop in the morning with their kids, and they was checking everybody. They wasn't just checking theirs. But that's the thing, is that we live in a world now where I don't want to be bothered, or I don't want nobody saying nothing to mine. So I think that we have, like, deep-seated things that we have to deal with in reference to where we are in our own trauma and the things that we've experienced, and we have to be okay with getting the help. Like, listen, that whole a lot of times older people, if we get our community together, we can stop the killing of each other. We really could. We could. And sometimes, like, these kids don't even know why they out here. They don't even know why they got the beef that they got. Some of them are literally, like, a lot of these kids who are young and they're gang members, they are literally just creating beef off of what they uncles, they aunties, they moms, their dads, and older people in their life who glorify gangbanging are still talking about what they used to do back in the day. All they kids know is that my mom was the Bloods and she didn't like the Crips, so I don't either. They don't even got no beef with them kids for real, right? And I'm saying, and I say that to say, because I've been in a lot of places. Like, my husband posted earlier in the comments that he will never talk about the things that he used to do, you know, on a criminal level and glorified in front of his nieces and nephews. Everybody don't have that spirit. There's a lot of people walking around that they don't mind talking about what used to be, what they used to be, who used to run the neighborhood, and they talk about it in a way that glorifies it to these kids. And so they want that same. Some of it isn't even about going out and getting money. Some of it is just about having that notoriety. Some of it is just about saying my uncle was so and so, you know, and we make it look good, and we let them watch it on the TV. And so because we do that, hey Raylyn, and because we do that, our kids think that it's a big deal, and we don't come together and we don't help each other out the way that we need to, because some kids, parents just don't have that option not to be at work. Some of them are working 2 jobs because they single parent homes. But when that happens, where is the community to say that they can help with that? Right? And the thing about most of us is that even if we have the ability to offer that assistance, some of us are so selfish and greedy that we not gonna help unless we getting paid. And some parents are not in that position, right? So what do you do if you're a single parent? You make too much money to be qualified to get any sort of CCAP or child care assistance, right? But you don't make enough money that you can come out of your pocket to be paying somebody to keep an eye on your kids all the time. So a lot of times we position ourselves to leave those kids at home by themselves or with their siblings, whatever the case may be. And as a community, we're not offering that because we want to get paid. So like, what do? Where are the people who have the resources to come together and have a community center where parents have the ability to drop their kids off during the day with responsible adults that we know are going to keep a good eye on them, that we know are going to have them doing homework after school, that we know are going to be playing football with them, playing basketball with them, showing them how to do different things on the computer? Like, where are the people that have the resources for those type of community centers where somebody could actually bring their child and say, you know, I don't have much financially to contribute, but we're still, as a community, willing to allow those kids to come there and be there, and while their parents is at work, and they don't have to worry about their kids. Like, there's people out here that have the resources. There's people out here with their nonprofits who they are unwilling to do those kinds of things. There are also people who have nonprofits and programs, but because parents don't have the ability to either get their kids there, or they don't have the ability to pay whatever it is that they want, like, I don't know, I'm probably thinking way too far outside the box, but that would be my thought, is that, you know, I would love if I had access to the resources just to have a place to say, if you're a working parent and you don't have a safe place for your children to go, you can bring them here. All right? I can't bring them all to my house, but that would be my thought. But I think that we have open discussions. I think that we have I think that that's what we do. We have to have open discussions. We have to remove the stigma about getting professional mental health services involved sometimes, because sometimes the things that we have to heal from negatively affect our children, and we have to be open. And that brings me to a whole nother thing, and we are still going to make this like a topic of its own one day. But I think that we have to stop putting our children in positions where we already know, right, that a certain family member is abusive. We already know that this is not someone that we should probably leave our kids around, and we do it anyway. And we subject them to that trauma. Like, what do we expect from people when they are exposed to trauma? What kind of behaviors do we expect people to have when we subject them to trauma? What do we expect them to have when we put them in situations where we are not protected? How do we expect them to then act? And I think that every situation is based on the individual, and we find a lot of times that when children are out here and they're committing crimes, when children are out here and they're having sex and they're having babies as teenagers, a lot of the times, if we look into their life, there are traumatic events that have happened, some more traumatic than others, and we put them in a position to go out here and involve themselves in the activities that they do. But anyway, so that's my spiel for tonight, y'all. So with that being said, like, my husband, he actually didn't even cook the food because I was on, and you know, I talked about him because he was making too much noise in the background and he was being distracting. But I suppose since it's already 7:30 anyway, that rather than ask him to cook, I'll just go ahead and take him out on the date that I said I would take him on in the first place. Because I mean, now at this point, we gonna eat late regardless of whether we cook or we go out. So I guess I'll take the man on the date that he initially wanted. Maybe that's why he came in here making noise, because he really wanted that date. I'm just playing. But anyway, I love you guys, and I've actually really enjoyed spending time with you this evening. I thank you all for coming to let me love on you. I thank y'all for coming to love on me. I really look forward to seeing you guys every week. And yeah, I think that, you know, as a community, let's talk about it. That's what we're here for. That's why we just talking, because there's things that we just need to talk about. Yep. And you know what? Mama Nay had a lot of good things that she brought up, and we just gonna be talking about the pedophiles in our family, right? We just gonna be talking about the abusive people in our family. Hey, Michelle. We just gonna be talking about how we are allowing some of our kids to be in the presence of people that traumatized us, and now we letting them traumatize our kids. Now listen, you may not have found your voice, you may not have found the ability to speak up and be courageous and tell somebody what happened to you, but you at least have a responsibility not to place your children in that same person's presence and give them access. So I'm gonna cut us off there, because that's a whole discussion that we gonna have on a different day. But I absolutely love you guys. I pray that you have a good rest of the week. Y'all know Juneteenth is happening this weekend. There's a lot of things that will be going on. There's a lot of activity. It's gonna be hot outside. I'm just asking y'all. I'm pleading with y'all. Let's not do nothing to hurt us. Let's go have a good time like we supposed to. Let's love on each other, and let's not give anybody a reason to try to shut us down or minimize our space because we went out there acting a fool. Okay? Love you too, Shell. So y'all have a good weekend. Go enjoy the festivities. If you like me and you got an extra day off, let's take some time. Let's chill. Let's spend time with each other. Let's love on each other. Let's do what we supposed to do. That's the easiest thing we can do, but we got to start addressing some stuff. So we going to pick up next week. I love y'all. And if you have suggestions for things that you want to talk about, you have suggestions for any way in which we can heal as a community, feel free to inbox me. Let's talk about it. I love y'all. Have a good night.